The regular meeting of the Aurora City Council for Monday, April 10th, 2023 is called to order. Would the clerk please read the roll?
Mayor Kaufman.
Here.
Councilmember Bergen.
Here.
Councilmember Coombs.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Gardner. Councilmember Drinsky.
Here.
Councilmember Lawson.
Here.
Councilmember Marcano.
Present.
Councilmember Medina.
Here.
Councilmember Murillo.
Present.
Councilmember Sundberg.
Here.
And Councilmember Zavanek.
Here.
There's a quorum.
Announcement for the public call-in line.
City Council welcomes feedback from the public on both matters appearing on the agenda and during public invited to be heard. If you would like to speak and have not already spoken to an operator, please press *3. For those watching on Channel 8, call 855-695-3475 and press *3 when connected. You will hear a prompt confirming you are in line to speak to an operator and then be able to continue listening to the meeting. When the operator comes on the line, please be ready to give them your name and agenda item you wish to speak on. Keep in mind you must press *3 before the city clerk reads the title of the item you wish to speak on. Finally, as a reminder, council does not allow comments about any items on the agenda during public invited to be heard. Each speaker is allowed 3 minutes, and public invited to be heard is limited to 1 hour in total.
El Consejo Municipal de la Ciudad de Aurora le da la bienvenida a la opinión de sus habitantes y otros vecinos en asuntos comparecientes en la agenda y durante la invitación a la audiencia. Esta sesión tiene disponible interpretación en español. Por favor, háganos saber si usted necesita este servicio. Recuerde que el Consejo no permite comentarios de la audiencia mientras se dirigen asuntos de la agenda del día. Por favor, confirme su turno y espere la invitación para comentario público. Gracias.
Please join me in a prayer. O Lord, our God and our Father, we come to you and we ask that you would look upon this particular gathering tonight to keep us safe and guide us in our decisions. Bless our city with honorable citizens, industry, sound education, and good government. Unite our community together, even though we come from different backgrounds. We pray that there be justice and peace in our city. Give the City Council and citizens the wisdom, direction, and sensitivity to the business and proceedings before us tonight. Hear us, therefore, as we commit this meeting to the help of the community. Amen. The land acknowledgement, the City of Aurora acknowledges that we gather on the territories and ancestral homelands of the Cheyenne, Ute, Arapaho, and Lakota peoples, past and present. We also recognize the 48 contemporary tribal nations that are historically tied to the lands that made up the state of Colorado. Indigenous people have remained committed to the stewardship of this land over many centuries. As these words of acknowledgement are spoken and heard, the ties that these nations have to their traditional homelands and to their vital place in the ecosystem are renewed and reaffirmed. And we are called to be better stewards of the land we inhabit as we continue to work to meet the needs of our entire community. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Executive session update. During executive session, we discussed negotiations on contracts and legal advice on rulemaking. Motion to approve the minutes for March 13, 2023.
Mayor, I move to approve the minutes.
It's been moved by Councilmember Sundberg and seconded by
Bergen.
Councilmember Bergen to approve the minutes from March 13, 2023. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, would the clerk please call the question?
Mayor Kaufman,
Mayor votes yes.
Councilmember Coombs,
Yes.
Councilmember Zavonic,
Yes.
and the minutes for March 13th pass with 10 yes votes.
Motion is order to approve the minutes from March 27, 2023.
Mayor, I move to approve the minutes.
It's moved by Councilmember Sundberg, seconded by
Bergen.
Councilmember Bergen to approve the minutes for March 27, 2023. Discussion? Seeing no further discussion, a call for the question on the approval of the minutes from March 27, 2023.
Mayor Kaufman,
Mayor votes yes.
Councilmember Coombs,
Yes.
Councilmember Zavonic.
Yes.
The motion passes to adopt the March 27th City Council minutes.
We have some proclamations tonight. The first one is Genocide Awareness and Prevention Month. I understand we don't have any recipients tonight for that. Whereas genocide is a deliberate attempt to eradicate a group of people with common religious, ethnic, and national roots, and whereas genocide begins not with violence but with words, and whereas genocide unravels the fabric of humankind and poses a threat to the global community, and whereas it is important to remember and commemorate the 20th century genocides perpetrated against Armenians, Jews, Cambodians, Bosnians, Darfuri, Rwandans, and many others. And whereas we must acknowledge and commemorate the violent treatment of African Americans and American Indians in our own country's history. And whereas it is our obligation to educate and draw awareness to the dehumanizing, marginalizing, and exclusionary behaviors against individuals with a common identity, with the goal of preventing future genocidal violence. Now, therefore, I, Mike Coffin, Mayor of the City of Aurora, Colorado, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2023 as Genocide Awareness Prevention Month and condemn all acts of genocide and crimes against humanity, imploring our community to embrace diversity, speak kind words, and treat all others with kindness. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Aurora, Colorado to be affixed on this 31st day of March 2023. Let's see. Aurora Arbor Month. I think John Wiesolowski, Manager of Parks and Forestry. Whereas Friday, April 21st, 2023 is designated as Colorado Arbor Day, and whereas the observance of Arbor Day creates an awareness among citizens of the roles that trees play in our day-to-day lives, and whereas trees provide shade, control erosion, increase property values, beautify our neighborhoods, and enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and whereas the City of Aurora has been certified as a Tree City USA by the Arbor Day Foundation for a 39th year in honor of its commitment to effective urban forest management, and whereas to celebrate the significance of trees in our community and to celebrate Arbor Day, the City of Aurora will plant trees at Aurora Sports Park to celebrate the expanse and vigor of Aurora's urban forest. Now, therefore, I, Mike Coffin, Mayor of the City of Aurora, Colorado, do hereby proclaim April 21st, 2023, Aurora Arbor Week, in witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Aurora, Colorado to be affixed this 10th day of April 2023. So how many trees do we have in this city?
35,000 street trees, Mayor.
35,000 street trees. What do you think the total tree population is in our city?
I couldn't tell you. Lots. Mayor, you get me every year with this. I should be more prepared. But I just want to say, Mayor, council members, thank you for your support for the being a Tree City USA and the urban forest in the city of Aurora. Mayor, I just want to say, one question that I do get quite a bit is, do I have a city tree? And to find out if you have a city tree, all you have to do is to go to auroragov.org/trees. Okay. You click on the button that says, do I have a city tree? You enter your address, and it zooms right into your property, and it tells you if you have a city tree or not. So lots of other good information on the website, how to plant, how to prune, how to care, what type of trees you should be planting, and it's just great information. So thank you so much.
Thanks for all you do. Really appreciate it. Councilmember Lawson.
Okay, our next proclamation is going to be Arab American Heritage Month. Can I have everyone who is, I'm reading this proclamation on behalf of, please come up to the front, please. And anyone who wants to take photos as well. Okay, it looks like we have everybody, and I'm very honored to read this proclamation on behalf of the mayor. Whereas Arab Americans make valuable contributions to the fabric of our American society, and whereas Arab Americans generously share their rich culture and traditions with their neighbors and friends, serve the country and the public, and add strength to our nation's beautiful diversity. And whereas despite their significant contributions to our communities and culture, Arab Americans have been neglected or defaced by misconceptions and anti-Arab hate through speech and crime by those committed to undermining the United States collective. And whereas civil rights abuses, bias-motivated stereotyping, general biases, and crimes against Arab Americans and all minority communities must be combated through awareness, education, and kindness. Whereas this month we recognize our Arab American communities and their contributions to making Aurora, Colorado a great and diverse city, and America great and a diverse nation. Now, therefore, I, Mike Kaufman, Mayor of the City of Aurora, Colorado, do hereby proclaim April 2023 as Arab American Heritage Month, in witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Aurora, Colorado, to be affixed this 31st day of March 2023. And so I want to present this to you, and if you would like to make some comments.
First of all, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilman. It's been an honor to receive this. Truly honored for everything that we have been able to accomplish together. The City of Aurora has been a great support to us. It's allowed us to hold our festival here. We're holding it again this year. Thankful to my team, the amazing people that have helped put all of this that we do together. Our community is growing. We're united. You were there this weekend. Over 460 people attended from different groups, different walks of earth. So it was an amazing thing for all of us. Thank you again. And again, it's an honor for all of us. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, our next proclamation that I will be reading is for Child Abuse Prevention Month. Is anyone or any representatives from CASA here? Please come up to the front. And thank you for attending. I'm honored to read this proclamation. Whereas child development is the foundation for community development and economic prosperity, and whereas children are our future workforce, leaders, neighbors, and community members, and whereas research shows when children experience prolonged and significant adverse childhood experiences such as poverty, abuse, or neglect without adequate adult support to buffer their experiences, it becomes toxic and impacts their brain architecture. And the basic architecture of the brain is constructed through an ongoing process that begins before birth and continues into adulthood. And whereas community action and collaboration are crucial elements of child abuse prevention, and CASA, the court-appointed special advocates, partners with Colorado State and counties to prevent child maltreatment, and whereas all this month we will encourage individuals, government institutions, businesses, community associations in our community to raise awareness of child abuse prevention and to show support for thriving communities, thriving families, and thriving children in the city of Aurora. Now, therefore, I, Mike Kaufman, Mayor of the City of Aurora, Colorado, do hereby proclaim April 2023 as Child Abuse Prevention Month and invite all Aurora citizens and communities to raise awareness to increase prevention of child abuse here and everywhere. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Aurora, Colorado, to be affixed this 3rd day of April 2023. And thank you. Would you like to say something?
Yes, that would be great. Thank you so much. My name is Abby Gass. I'm the Development Director for CASA of Adams and Broomfield counties. And here with me is Josefina Raphael Milliner. She's the Executive Director for Advocates for Children CASA. And both of our programs serve the city of Aurora. And at CASA, we provide court-appointed volunteer advocacy for children and youth from the child welfare system. And so we see firsthand how child abuse and neglect impacts our children and our communities. So this month is really important to us. We recognize how important it is to strengthen families and build better futures for our kids. So by recognizing this month, you're helping to increase that awareness. So we appreciate your support so much. We do have some materials to leave with you as well, just with some information about CASA.
I just want to acknowledge we do have a councilman here who is also a former CASA volunteer, Councilman Sundberg. Thank you so much for your dedication to our mission and to our children and our communities.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A public invited to be heard?
Yes, Mayor. We have a few individuals. The first person is Deanna Meyer, followed by Michaela Hinnerman.
Hello, thank you so much for giving us this time to talk. My name is Deanna Meyer, and I'm the Executive Director of Prairie Protection. I'm here to talk about the proposed prairie dog ordinance in hopes that it will help alleviate any concerns and gain your support in passing this measure. I listened to the PED meeting regarding this ordinance, and I just wanted to clarify some points. Currently, the Fish and Wildlife Service is accepting prairie dogs in Colorado. They are interested in establishing large contiguous prairie dog colonies to create habitat for the most critically endangered mammal in North America, the black-footed ferret. Ferrets need large colonies of prairie dogs in order to survive. This land is available and pre-approved by the commissioners for out-of-county relocations from June through November into the foreseeable future. Because of these increasing opportunities, we want to ensure that developers are required to relocate prairie dogs rather than to exterminate them, not only because it is the ethical thing to do, but also because it will help the larger goal of preserving land and habitat for endangered species. Over the years, our organization has received hundreds of calls from residents in Aurora about the poisoning and burying alive of prairie dogs for developments. This ordinance would alleviate some of those concerns and would allow prairie dogs to continue their existence where they can perform their keystone role on the grasslands. These relocations are being done with the best science from the Fish and Wildlife Service, and contrary to the information during the planned meeting, the prairie dogs are not relocated with vacuums. Ethical relocators go in and live trap them above ground. The animals are tracked so that they are released in family units with their burrow mates. Relocations have a very high success rate when they are done professionally, ethically, and scientifically. Prairie Protection Colorado has worked with Parker on prairie dog relocations during the last season and has successfully relocated over 1,000 prairie dogs to these preserves. These projects did not overburden the developers, and they were not 10 times more expensive than exterminations. If developers are required to use non-toxic products that do not travel up and down the food chain, poisoning other species, the costs are comparable. Costs for both extermination and relocation are dependent on the colony size. Relocations do take longer, but the cost is not excessive in comparison to the exterminations. Relocating colonies is the ethical thing to do, and it helps keeps our federal wildlife services and the most critically endangered mammal in North America. If land isn't available sometime for relocations, but developers don't have to relocate. They can't. This will not require an excessive burden on their part. If you have any further questions, I'm happy to answer them, and I also encourage you to talk with Parker to get a better idea of how this has worked out in their municipality. We are asking for your support to ensure that when opportunities do exist for relocations to save the rapidly vanishing prairie dog colonies of Aurora, that developers are required to relocate them. Thank you so much for your time and consideration on this ordinance.
Michaela Hinnerman, followed by Isamar Picardo.
Hi. Thank you for the opportunity. When does the time start? Should I go? Yes. Yeah, now? Okay. I am here today with residents and neighbors of the city of Aurora in Arapahoe County to address the lack of protection for prairie dogs and other wildlife impacted by development. Boulder, Lafayette, Thornton, Parker, Longmont have all shown compassion, and yet the city of Aurora continues to reap the benefits of development with no regard for its original residents. You cannot say you care about the constituents and wildlife who live here when you ignore the merciless poisoning of these keystone species, sentient beings. Some of you were elected because you said you cared about the natural community, and yet you turn a blind eye to the harmful poisons that are used to eradicate these native species. Second-generation anticoagulant rodenticides. When prairie dogs are poisoned with SARS, such as Rosal and Kaput, which are extremely dangerous, it's not just the prairie dogs hemorrhaging to death that perish. So do countless other species that rely on prairie dogs for food and shelter. Predatory animals and scavengers such as owls, hawks, eagles, foxes, coyotes, domestic pets, and the black-footed ferret, most endangered mammal in North America, or species in North America, are just some of those that suffer. Why? Because any animal that consumes the poisoned prairie dog is also poisoned. In terms of birds of prey, death comes quickly. Foxes, coyotes, bobcats, even domestic pets suffer longer. The poisons do not immediately kill them. They build up in their systems, leaving them immunocompromised and susceptible to other things such as mange. Okay? Mange in foxes and coyotes and other predators is proven, scientifically proven, to be directly linked to rodenticide poisoning. 5-year-old Bridget Carlson of Salem, North Carolina. 4-year-old Rebecca Kane Toon of Layton, Ohio. 15-month-old Rachel Ann Toon of Layton, Ohio. 1-day-old Matthew Zapati of San Marcos, California. 4 children in Amarillo, Texas. 3 boys, 7, 9, 11, and a 17-year-old girl. All these children died to aluminum phosphide poisoning. Aluminum phosphide, otherwise known as fumitoxin, is commonly used in Aurora to eradicate prairie dogs. It's cruel and extremely dangerous. The city of Aurora is home to prairie dogs and other wildlife, as well as the citizens and constituents that care about them. The proposed prairie dog ordinance not only provides protection for the prairie dogs and the 180 species that depend on them, but also for domestic pets and your constituents. It calls for the relocation of prairie dogs in the path of development when land is available, and humane euthanasia via carbon monoxide, which is highly effective when not. Life should be the first course of action, apropos relocation. Developers will not hesitate to relocate if compelled to do so by the city. Is that me? Am I over time? Thank you for your time. Okay.
Isamar Picardo.
Dear Aurora City Council members, my name is Isamar Pichardo. I am a resident in Aurora, and I am here to express my concern by all the ecocide that are happening in the city. Since I moved to Aurora in 2017, I have seen at least 10 prairie dog colonies disappear near my house due to new development. Some colonies have been inhumanely poisoned, and others have been buried alive. Yes, buried alive with their newborns. Right now, as I am speaking, they are dosing a colony a few blocks from here on Sable and Exposition. I am exhausted of seeing one colony after another disappear. Prairie dogs are not rodent pests. They are a keystone species that remain less than 2%. That is the reason I am at the forefront of this ordinance in collaboration with other residents, nonprofit, wildlife experts, and city council members that have listened to my concerns. During the PD committee, I heard many concerns, but no one spoke about the environmental costs for destroying an ecosystem that will disappear forever and that has no real price. I hope this information is useful, but I encourage everyone to do your own unbiased research. Please feel free to reach out to our team of wildlife experts with further questions. Thank you for your time.
That was the last individual.
I need a motion on the consent calendar, item number 10A1.
Mayor, we have to adopt the agenda first.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did that again. The motion is in order for the adoption of the agenda.
Mayor.
Councilmember Marcano.
So moved.
It's been moved by Councilmember Marcano, seconded by
Zavonic.
Councilmember Zavonic on the adoption of the agenda. Discussion? Let's say no discussion. Call for the question on the adoption of the agenda.
Mayor Kaufman.
Mayor votes yes.
Councilmember Sundberg. The motion passes to adopt the agenda.
Motion is in order for the adoption of the consent decree, item number 10A1 to 10C3.
Mayor,
Councilmember Bergen.
motion to approve the consent calendar 10A1 through 10A6?
10C3, I'm sorry.
10C3.
Mayor,
Councilmember Summer.
can I pull 10A1?
Very well. Is there a second to Councilmember Bergen's motion for the adoption of the consent calendar?
Second.
Very well. It's been moved, seconded by Councilmember Marcano. So the motion before us right now is the adoption of the consent calendar, item number 10A2 to 10C3. Discussion? Seeing none, call for the question on adoption of the consent calendar, item number 10A2 to 10C3.
Mayor Kaufman.
Mayor votes yes.
The motion passes to adopt the consent calendar, items 10A2 through 10C3.
Clerk, now please read the title to item number 10A1.
Item 10A1 is consideration to extend a competitively bid contract to Keeson Landscape Management, Inc., Inglewood, Colorado, in the not-to-exceed amount of $250,000 for abatement services as required through March 31st, 2024.
Brief presentation by staff.
Good evening. My name is Sandra Youngman. I'm the Manager of Code Enforcement in Housing and Community Services.
Mayor, I just had a couple questions, if that's
Very well. Questions of staff, Councilmember Summer.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Jessica and Sandra. So Keeson, have they been able to keep up with the demand on a daily basis as we've needed them?
For the for code
abatements.
enforcement's abatements, yes, they have.
No problem. They have enough crew to handle
I have
the
not
job?
heard any problems from my staff.
Okay, excellent, good to hear. And I see they also do a particular amount of landscape, just good old-fashioned cutting of grass and trees, and is that related to the homeless services and abatement?
No, we don't have anything. Our contract with Keeson's is specifically for the weed, trash, and debris abatement, so they're not cutting any trees or as such.
Okay.
So, and to clarify, this is only for private property, completely unrelated to homeless abatement services. We have a separate contract for homeless camp abatement. This is only for code enforcement's purposes related to private property.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. That's all I had, sir.
Further questions of staff? Seeing none, motion is in order for the adoption of 10A1.
Motion.
It's been moved by Councilmember Sandberg, seconded by
Mayor, second.
Councilmember Lawson to approve item number 10A1. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, question before us is the adoption of 10A1. Call for the question.
Mayor Kaufman.
Mayor votes yes.
The motion passes to adopt item 10A1.
Consent calendar on resolutions and ordinances, item number 11A to item number 11, let's see what, this is 11A3, but,
Mayor, it'd be,
I'm sorry, 11B1,
11A1 to 11B1.
11B1.
Mayor,
Councilmember Bergen.
motion to approve 11A1 through 11B1.
It's been moved by Councilmember Bergen, seconded by
Mayor, second.
Councilmember Lawson to approve item number 11A1 to 11B1. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, call for the question on the adoption of the consent calendar, item number 11A1 to 11B1. Oh, did he respond?
Councilmember Zvonik.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes to adopt the consent calendar for resolutions and ordinances.
Clerk, now please read the title to item number 12A.
Item 12A is a public hearing in introduction of ordinance 2023-10, designating the proposed Majestic Commerce Center 2 urban renewal area as a blighted area appropriate for urban renewal.
Public hearing is now open. Presentation by staff.
Good evening. I'm Jennifer Orozco from Development Services. Tonight, we've included with your backup a copy of the Majestic Commerce Center 2 Condition Survey. This is often commonly referred to as a blight study. This was authorized by AURA back in August of last year. The consultant, SEH, visited the site in October and then in November issued their findings. The site is located immediately east of the existing Majestic Commerce Center development. It covers 418 vacant acres at the southeast corner of Piccadilly and East 38th Avenue. In the study, the consultant found evidence of 5 blighting factors on the property and concluded that the surveyed area does in fact meet Colorado's statutory minimum for council to declare the area blighted and appropriate for urban renewal activities. Tonight, you're conducting a public hearing and consideration of an ordinance which would declare the area blighted and initiate an urban renewal plan. If you decide to move forward, the next steps would involve staff drafting an urban renewal plan, meeting with other taxing jurisdictions to negotiate, and then also working with the property owner to finalize their plans and better quantify their request. And with that, I'm happy to provide clarification or answer questions.
Is there a presentation by the applicant?
No.
There is not. Does anybody wish to be heard?
No.
Questions of staff?
Mayor?
Councilmember Bergen.
I know they met 5 of the factors for blight. What is the minimum requirement?
You must meet a minimum of 4 in order to move forward with an urban renewal project. But in this case, because we have a single property owner, they could have as few as 1 factor of blight.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions of staff? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed, and a motion is in order.
Mayor, I move to approve 12A.
It's been moved by Councilmember Sundberg, seconded by
Bergen.
Councilmember Bergen to approve item number 12A. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, a call for the question on the adoption of 12A.
The motion passes to adopt item 12A, ordinance 2023-10.
Will the clerk now please read the title to item number 12B?
Item 12B is a public hearing consideration of ordinance 2023-11, rezoning a parcel of land measuring 2.14 acres more or less, located at the southwest corner of Smith Road and Sable Boulevard, City of Aurora, County of Adams, State of Colorado, from mixed-use corridor zone district to business tech zone district, and amending the zoning map accordingly.
Public hearing is now open. Presentation by staff.
Good evening, Commissioners, Mayor. My name is Liz Fuselier. I am a planner with Planning and Development Services and Current Planning. Before you is a request by 5280 RV Storage for a rezone of 2.1 acres of a 8.01 acre parcel from mixed-use corridor to I-1 Business Tech. Next slide. There are 3 different zone districts surrounding this site: R1, or low-density single-family residential, to the west and south, and I1, or business tech district, to the east and north. The red highlighted area is zoned MUC, or mixed-use corridor, and is the subject of the zoning map amendment request. This final slide shows the proposed zoning should the rezone be approved. The proposed use of RV storage is not permitted in the current zone district of MUC, but is permitted with the proposed I-1 district. This rezone is consistent with the comprehensive plan industrial hub place type. This concludes my staff presentation. I'm available for any questions, as is the applicant's representative.
Is there a, presentation by the applicant?
No, sir.
Okay. Does anybody wish to be heard on this issue?
Glenn Ressmeyer.
Glenn Ressmeyer, neighborhood resident. I'm just right outside the edge of this map here. The Morris Heights neighborhood, which is still not indicated on this slide per the city, we are completely against this rezoning and the conceding of the, well, pretty much the entire project we're against. But the first and biggest thing is the 32nd Place extent road there needs to be remaining in place and not just as a emergency access area. It needs to be available for pedestrians. We have members of the neighborhood who take the bus that's running along Smith Road. If this project goes through as it is set up, the residents will have to walk 3,000 feet each way extra to get to the bus. That's almost a mile every day extra. This entire area has, for the past 60 years, provided lots of recreational opportunities for the neighborhood. There's a dirt track out there that the neighborhood kids ride their bike in. Prairie dogs, all sorts of other fun things and excitement to be had. This entire area is also going to be one giant parking lot at the end of this, which means 8 acre-feet of water having to go through a small channel located here at the Barrymore Ditch area. It's a 4-foot wide canal. I've already seen this twice in my life, that thing fill up to the point where it was getting close to, about halfway up the embankment area. Without this being a large sand lot, this entire thing is going to flood that, flood the road, flood everything around it. The city has 20-plus years of disappointing this neighborhood and promising one thing won't happen. Subsequently, this exact thing that we complained about did happen. So, see also the PR teardrop, the the low-income residents over at 30th and Peoria, golf course, and all sorts of other things. The city has very little credibility to our neighborhood because of all these projects that have gone horribly awry. Please deny this rezoning and let us have a chance to actually get something that works for this neighborhood. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard?
No.
Are questions of staff?
Mayor,
Councilmember Murillo.
thank you, and thank you for to the speaker who came to speak today. I wonder if staff could address any of the concerns that were addressed just in the public testimony.
As far as recreation of the site, it is zoned I-1 for business tech. My understanding is that housing could not be built on this parcel based not only on the zoning, but also on some issues regarding prior use. As far as recreation, I think that would be a question for Parks and Rec and Open Space on whether or not it would be a viable public opportunity for the community.
Mayor,
Councilmember Murillo.
thank you. What about the drainage issues that were presented? Can anyone
So the
speak?
drainage issues were reviewed by Public Works, and drainage has been approved by the city via the site plan.
Okay.
Further questions of staff? Seeing none, the public, what, I'm sorry.
Councilmember Coombs.
Oh, Councilmember Coombs, sorry about that.
That's okay. So to clarify with respect to the drainage issue, is there additional drainage that's going to be added to address the concerns expressed?
I'm going to ask that the applicant respond to that question.
Good evening. My name is Jessica Melton. Excuse me. I'm with J.L. Melton Construction, 6271 Beach Street, Denver, Colorado. I'm here on behalf of Stephen Leifer, the owner of the property. And I just want to address your concern about the drainage. A drainage study has been conducted, and the drainage will be done in compliance with the city regulations and requirements, and there's no additional drainage coming from other portions of the property. All drainage within this site will be dealt with on this site through a detention basin and proper drainage requirements.
Further questions of staff or the applicant?
Mayor?
Councilmember Bergen.
Yes, so it's currently 3 lots are zoned the same as what we're trying to change it to, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions of staff or the applicant?
Mayor.
Councilmember Murillo.
Thank you. Can somebody tell me what other mixed use, like currently zoned mixed use, is located near that area? I'm assuming that it was zoned for that particular reason initially, and I'm wondering what other opportunities for mixed-use zoning are nearby.
I don't have a map in front of me, councilperson, but that was zoned MUC perhaps with the implementation of the UDO as possibly a commercial node at that corner of Smith and Sable. I think you'd have to go pretty far down Sable to find another MUC-zoned area.
Thank you. That was kind of the point I was trying to make. So I don't live too far from there, so I know exactly where this is at. And there isn't a very walkable mixed-use plot of land that's nearby the area. There's like a convenience store kind of midway through, but just sells, it's kind of more or less like a gas station, which you would find there. So from what you might hope to attract with like a mixed-use zoned property, I feel, in terms of the interest of the district and what is the best and highest use there, I'm not sure I'm convinced that converting it to an RV storage is the, best and highest use in terms of serving the community. I think there was another comment around the access to bus stations. Is anyone aware of the location of the bus stations, and if that would be altered by this change?
There is a bus stop for RTD on Sable, and my understanding is there is also one on Smith Road. What will also occur with this development is infrastructure along Sable and Smith will be brought up to code. So Smith Road will now have a sidewalk portion, at least of the portion that is adjacent to this property.
Can I add something?
Thank you.
I believe the applicant has some follow-up.
Can I add
if that's
something to
permitted.
that?
Please respond.
Sure.
Yeah.
So there will be a sidewalk added all along Sable Boulevard as well as part of this development with landscaping. The property will have a 6-foot wooden fence around the property. But also I want to speak to the zoning. This property has some really unique aspects. If you look at it, those two top parcels up in the top left are also I-1. And if you see how East 32nd Place kind of winds around, if this zoning is not approved, you're essentially going to have kind of abandoned properties up in that top left portion because it's zoned I-1, and there's not really a whole lot that can be done with that within the I-1 district because of their size. Furthermore, there's environmental concerns on this property such that it can't be developed for a much higher use than what we're proposing. You can't put any sort of a school, any sort of housing. It can't be rezoned for a residential area, and we intend to bring the property up to current codes for I-1 and develop a nice aesthetic for the community. I mean, right now, I'm sure you're aware that there was a body abandoned on this property a few months ago. Since my client has owned it since last year, we've been notified of food trucks parking on there illegally. The gentleman mentioned dirt bikes. People are dirt biking over there. Although it might be nice for the community, in my opinion, that's a hazard to the community of people using property illegally. It's also become a dumping ground. We go by every other week and remove debris, dirt, all kinds of miscellaneous materials that are being abandoned there. So our intention is to clean up the property and create something that is nice for the community instead of this vacant, abandoned property.
Further questions of staff or the applicant?
Mayor.
Councilmember Murillo.
Just real quick, so if it's zoned mixed-use commercial, does that mean that that is a possible use of that land? I think you stated that there wouldn't be no higher use than an RV storage. So I just want to be clear that that's still possible. It is possible to have that type of development on this land currently.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand your question.
I just want to make sure that it's clear for the record, maybe it's more of a statement, that the RV storage isn't necessarily the best and highest use for the property, that it's currently zoned for alternative development now.
It is a use. It is a use permitted under I-1.
Yes.
Yes.
I also want to state for the record that this is not just RV storage on an open lot. It will be carports, there will be 31 garages, and what the client is intending is high-end storage for this, for this area in the developing neighborhood around 470 and the community. So many of the communities have HOA restrictions, and I'm sure you guys are experiencing that within the city of Aurora, where there are vehicles parked on the streets, and it's a constant problem. And so part of this development will include garaged spaces, 31 garage spaces, and those buildings will be along Sable Boulevard. So it's not just going to be a parking lot. It has been thoughtfully developed to fit with the aesthetic of the community.
Okay. Further questions of staff or the applicant?
Mayor.
Councilmember McConnell.
Thank you, sir. So the plans in our backup didn't include a site plan, just the rezoning plan. So I'm curious, where's the access going to be for the overall project?
So there will be access off of Sable Boulevard.
I do have a site plan with me. I don't know if you're interested in seeing that.
I'd like to.
It's kind of small, I apologize.
It's okay. Can we go to yeah, I think there might be, I think there's a camera here.
I think we have a camera we can zoom in so that all of council, just put it right down, they'll, I think we have, I know.
It's like magic.
Oh, I need one of these.
Sorry to put my IT folks on the spot, or my.
I know, it's super small. I apologize for that as well.
We haven't used this in a minute. It still works.
And I'm going to actually turn it so it's oriented the same way as the previous plan. So this is Sable Boulevard, and right here is the access off of Sable. And that will be the primary access. There will be emergency access off here, which was the abandoned 32nd Place. And then there will be sidewalk all along 32nd, all along Sable, and around this corner on Smith Road.
All right, Mayor.
Councilmember O'Connor.
Thank you, sir. So going back to the comment from the community member, is there a possibility to create a pedestrian path along the northern side of the property, just so that folks don't have to take a detour all the way around?
You know, unfortunately, can we show that, the zoning map again? I'm not sure if that's going to be realistic, because if you look in the top, above where the MUC area is, do you see that small triangle?
Mm-hmm.
That little triangle is not not for sale. It's owned by a separate party. So if you were going to try to create some sort of access through 32nd Place, I mean, the easiest thing would be to go plan north on here and then come along that property to get to Smith Road. And I'm sure that's how the current residents are accessing, just going, you know, through the vacant property because it's vacant. So I'm not going to deny that it, you know, will affect the access, but it's private property. And I'm not sure that there is going to be another way. All I can offer is that we are creating sidewalks along 32nd Avenue. We will be installing sidewalks along Sable Boulevard, and we will be installing sidewalk on Smith Avenue adjacent to the property because that's all we have control over. So we're doing the best we can to provide pedestrian access. Going through the property, I think it would bring a security issue, and I think that's a big concern for the applicant, for the developer. I'm not sure realistically we could create a pedestrian access going through the private property.
Mayor.
Councilmember O'Connor.
Thank you, sir. So I do appreciate the new sidewalks coming in. That's also a part of the responsibility you have since you're improving the property. And please don't misunderstand. I don't want folks to cut through the property. I was wondering if they could go along the perimeter. Basically, I'm trying to find the social trail here on our screens, and it doesn't seem to be picking it up, but I know that one does exist. So if it is along this area, I was wondering if you'd be able to incorporate a pedestrian path on the outside of the property, obviously on the outside of the fence, if you will. So I assume you mentioned you were fencing this area off.
Yes, and I'm trying to work with you. I'm trying to rack my brain to come up with some sort of solution to that. And I think my biggest concern would be that it would create a space that could potentially bring homeless to the area, or it would create a space that was not visible. It would be kind of a back alleyway, and I'm not quite sure that that's what is in keeping with the area and what the community would want.
Further questions of staff or the applicant?
Mayor.
Councilmember O'Connor.
Thank you, sir. So going back to the environmental concerns, and this is more for y'all, can you go into more of the details as to why this area would be unsuitable based off of, I guess, previous activity at the site, or maybe is it activity near the site?
My understanding, Commissioner Mercano, is that the state has there's been an environmental done on this property, and that it was found to be not suited for residential, and hence the I-1 Business Tech zoning district that was adhered to for the UDO.
Further questions of staff or the applicant?
Mayor.
Councilmember Coombs.
So I understand the not suitable for residential, but it's currently MUC, which can include a lot of commercial activity. is there a reason why it's not suited for that commercial activity?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the end of your
Sorry.
question.
Is there a reason why it would not be suited for other types of commercial activity? You know, retail services, other types of things that would benefit the neighborhood and the neighboring community.
So just to be clear, only two acres of the 8-acre parcel is zoned MUC. So the development opportunity for that northeast corner would be just for MUC, just that northeast corner. So there may be other commercial opportunities that could go into that corner per our zoning code, yes. Again, that would be just for that corner, but the whole entire parcel has one single owner.
Mayor?
Councilmember Bergen.
Okay, for clarification, what we're seeing in our backup, the map, is all, most of it is already industrial. Just the one portion is MUC that you are trying to rezone to match, to have it all be industrial. And if I'm hearing correctly, there's not been any desire by any developer to develop that one corner.
We've had numerous pre-applications that have come in for the entire parcel. Typically, those pre-applications include some type of request for a rezone.
Yeah.
So that the entire parcel is I-1.
Right. I get that, because I just, looking at it from a compatibility perspective, you're trying to keep it all consistent. It is a bit odd that there's just one portion of it that's MUC. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Further questions of staff or the applicant? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed, and a motion is in order.
Mayor, motion to approve item 12B.
It's moved by Councilmember Jurenski, seconded by
Sundberg.
Councilmember Sundberg to approve item number 14B. No, I'm sorry, 12B. Further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, call for the question on the adoption of item number 12B.
The motion passes to adopt ordinance 2023-11, 12B, with 5 yes votes, 4 no votes. Mayor, you have the ability to make or break a tie.
Mayor votes yes.
Yes. Okay. The motion passes to adopt item 12B.
Clerk, now please read the title to item number 12C.
Item 12C is a public hearing and consideration of Resolution 2023-40, expressing the Aurora City Council support of revisions to Exhibits A and B of the Crestone Peak Resources Operator Agreement.
Public hearing is now open. Presentation by staff.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Jeffrey Moore. I'm the manager of the oil and gas division for the city of Aurora. Thank you for your time this evening. This agenda item is to consider revision of Exhibits A and B of the Crestone Peak Resources Operator Agreement. Exhibits A and B are the list of wells and the description of the well sites and the operator agreement itself. This public hearing has been properly noticed in regard to Aurora City Code, Chapter 135, subsection 7C. I'm going to give a brief introduction of this topic and run through what's being requested, and then we have an application, we have a presentation by the applicant here as well. The operator agreement allows revisions to the wells and well sites after a public hearing at City Council. This item originated in PED and went to study session last week. There was a previous revision back in January of 2021. Crestone is requesting three things. First, a reduction in the number of total wells and total well sites, cancellation of a previously approved well site, which was less than 2,000 feet from a residence, and a shift in location of 2 well sites to avoid existing drainages and better align with surface owner plans. To give you an overview of this site, the first site that's being considered, they're all very close together. This is the 2 square mile area known as the ATEC area. It is located northwest of the corner of 26th Avenue and Monahan Road in Ward 2. There are 3 sites here that are under consideration for change. The first is the Bijou North site. The proposed shift in this site is to the southeast. That moves it out of an existing drainage where it was originally approved in the operator agreement. It also moves it further away from the future homes and residences in the Aurora Highlands to the west. The second is the Shoe South site. At that location, there's an existing well site with 4 producing wells. There was a proposed phase 2 expansion of that site to include 4 additional wells, but the operator is requesting that that phase 2 expansion be removed and not activated. The last change is the King North site. That site was in the final stages of approval through the city, and the applicant is recommending or suggesting to move those 12 wells, cancel the King North site, and move the 12 wells to the King South site just to the south. There are 4 currently producing wells on that site. That would 4 plus 12 would make 16 wells on that site. This whole 2 square miles is zoned AD or Airport District, and there is no approved master plan on this site currently. We have reviewed this in detail. Crestone is in full compliance with all parts of the operator agreement. We have confirmed support by both the surface owner and the mineral owners of this property. We've also confirmed unanimous support of the Oil and Gas Advisory Committee, and their letter was included in the packet. There are some advantages to this proposed change. It reduces total surface impact of oil and gas within the city, avoids having to reroute natural drainages, which is a preference expressed by Aurora Water, removes previously approved well site that was less than 2,000 feet from a residence, and provides greater protection for public health, safety, welfare, the environment, and wildlife resources. I do want to address the fact that currently there is 1 residence here on this property, and we'll draw a 2,000-foot radius line around that residence. You can see that the Bijou North in green and the King North in green are both well outside of that 2,000-foot radius. I do also want to say that since this process originated in PED last month, we've also confirmed with the surface owner that that residence will be removed as part of their future development plan for this property. So I want to let you know that it is there today, and the resident and tenant were notified, but it is scheduled to be removed by the surface owner once they begin their grading project for the development of the remainder of the property. So in summary, Crestone has the right to request this change. If it were not to be approved, Crestone still has the location rights that are already approved in the operator agreement. The results will be 1 less well site and 4 less wells. Cancel the approved site that was less than 2,000 feet from a residence. Reduce total surface disturbance in the city. Avoids 2 drainages. And again, we've confirmed the various support listed there, and the Oil and Gas Division supports this effort. And with that, I will introduce Dan Harrington from Civitas Resources, and he will provide a presentation as well.
Thank you, Mr. Moore, and hello, Mayor and council members. Thank you for having us here this evening. I'm here to present our justification for this proposed amendment to Exhibit B of the operator agreement. We'll run through 5 quick slides here. So we're here to seek amendments to the Exhibit B of the operator agreement. Now, Exhibit B is the document that lays out the specific requirements for individual well sites. In some, those changes include moving the Bijou North well site approximately 1/3 of a mile, eliminating the King North site and its 12 wells, but adding those 12 well slots to the King South well site, which is an existing pad with 4 wells at present. And lastly, eliminating phase 2 of the Shoe South well site. The proposed modifications to Exhibit B will not result in any impact to any other contractual language of the operator agreement. It's simply the individual pad site allotments. The net effect on the operator agreement plan development will be 1 fewer well site and 4 fewer wells, and some positive changes to the Bijou and King sites. The new sites will reflect the surface owner's preferences around siting and timing, and it will increase the area available for residential development to the west. We'll also be avoiding a mile-high flood district designated stream, Second Creek, and address drainage concerns raised by Aurora Water. This is an area map of the proposed, 2 proposed pad sites between I-70 and 56th Avenue to the north. Both of these sites would be accessed off Monaghan. And what you'll see in the following slides on the left is an example of what Exhibit B looks like in the operator agreement with the changes in color. So you can see that the Bijou North would be moving to south and east 1,800 feet with the change of the legal description there highlighted in yellow. Planned well count would not change, planned pad size would not change. And the chief benefit here is that it moves that well site out of the Second Creek drainage. You can see the original site was directly over that stream. It will also align better with the Aurora Highlands ATEX surface development plan. It'll move the pad actually into the Denver Airport high noise corridor and away from the residential development that's planned to the west. At King South, you can see on the left, the King North site will be eliminated and effectively shifted 1,300 feet south. That well site will be built as an add-on to the existing King South well site, effectively consolidating into a single 16-well pad. The benefits here, again, this modified site aligns better with ATEX planned surface development in the area. And the new consolidated pad is more space efficient. It will eliminate the King North build entirely and allow for a single facility to handle all the wells. And lastly, the Shoe South well site has already been drilled, 4 existing wells. The operator agreement currently allows 4 additional well slots. We will forego those well slots and any additional expansion or heavy activity at this pad site. And that sums it up. Thank you.
Is there anybody who wishes to be heard on this issue?
No.
Are there any questions for staff or the applicant? Public hearing is now closed. The motion is in order.
Mayor, I move to approve 12C.
Moved by Councilmember Sonnenberg, seconded by?
Zvonik.
Seconded by Councilmember Zvonik. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, call for the question on the adoption of item number 12C.
Council, thank you. The motion passes to adopt Resolution 2023-40.
Will the clerk now please read the title to item number 14A?
Item 14A is finalizing ordinance 2023-07, amending the 2018 comprehensive plan to enlarge the planning and annexation boundary located in the northeast section of the city and designating a place type of industrial hub to the area.
Public hearing is now open. I'm sorry, this is not a public hearing. Just you read the title. Will clerk now please read the title to item number 14A?
I just read it.
Oh, you did. You did. No, I was not.
Mayor, we do have a few individuals from the public who would like to speak.
Very well.
Okay, Leah Ramsey, followed by Jennifer Carpenter.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and staff. Thank you for the opportunity for me to speak this evening in relation to the growth area boundary expansion comprehensive plan amendment as it relates to our property. My name is Leah Ramsey. I am managing partner of Chelsea Investments, which is an affiliate of the John Madden Company. For those of you who may not know, the John Madden Company was founded over 60 years ago and has developed over 10 million square feet of office space nationally. On a local level, the John Madden Company has developed the majority of Greenwood Plaza here in Greenwood Village. Al Nemisek, who's the managing partner of John Madden Company for over 50 years, bought 656 acres of land located at the northwest corner of 56th Avenue and Bowden Road 20 years ago. We have been working towards development of this property for 5 years. We began discussions with the city staff in 2019. This property is also known as the Front Range Air Park. A few important items to note regarding our property. It is contiguous to City of Aurora on the eastern and southern boundaries of the property. It's contiguous to 56th Avenue, which is the only contiguous roadway connecting E-470 to Denver International Airport and the Colorado Air and Spaceport. It is directly north of the Colorado Air and Spaceport and immediately west and east of Transport Colorado. Front Range Air Park is within the economic growth corridor of the City of Aurora and the Colorado Air and Spaceport. Inclusion of this property into the urban growth boundary promotes the orderly development and long-term economic health of the City of Aurora. Front Range Air Park's location also plays a critical role in the Northeast Aurora Transportation Study, also known as NEATS. 56th Avenue and Bowden Road are both major arterial roads. 56th Avenue is identified as a future high-frequency transit route. 56th Avenue is a primary bike route, and Bowden Road is a secondary bike route. Once again, thank you for your time this evening, and I'm happy to answer any questions during the discussion.
Jennifer Carpenter, followed by Peter Elsie.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Jennifer Carpenter. I am a planner, principal planner with LAI Design Group. Leah did such a great job. She took some of my points. So the discussion with Aurora started with annexation proceedings, and we followed a late pre-application back in 2020 when the growth boundary designation discussion first started with our team. More recently, as of March of this year, we've had a second pre-application with staff, and this time we have an end user in sight. The end user has executed a purchase and sales agreement for a quarter, if not half of the 656 acres. This end user's development will jumpstart and deliver significant revenue to the City of Aurora, which will be followed up later in our presentation or public speaking. The development of this property provides solution, and we feel empowers the vision that the City of Aurora has set forth, such as long-term economics along with social and environmental health, improvements to 56th Avenue and Bowden Road, which will result in promoting public health, safety, and welfare, a very important link in a looped water infrastructure system, also prevents leapfrog development with this development being included in the growth boundary. We have provided packets. I'm not sure if they actually made it to you guys. I know that the clerk has them, but we have a conceptual land use plan that we've been working with staff in Aurora, and we've outlined phase 1, which shows our end user. This end user is looking at the first phase of approximately 100 acres. When you look at this, it's approximately a 34% building coverage. Our master plan represents requirements of the development standards necessary for site plan approval, such as public land dedications, parking, landscape, and various setbacks. Thank you for your consideration of approving this growth boundary amendment so that we can set forth this end user as being part of the City of Aurora.
Peter Elsie, followed by Randall Phelps.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Peter Elsie. I'm a principal with the firm THK Associates. Our offices are in Aurora, Colorado, and I am a resident of Aurora, Colorado. A while back, I recommended to my client that they develop this property with about 9.3 million square feet of uses, about 8.3 million square feet of industrial space, a small amount of office space, about 250,000 square feet, over 300,000 square feet of retail space, and about 1,000 hotel rooms that would be developed on this property over time. When you look at what the typical property values would be, including personal property, and the city's current mill levy, this 9.3 million square feet would generate about $248 million in property tax, sales tax, and lodging tax revenues over 20 years. It would generate $20 million in permit fees and almost $23 million in use taxes. Adams County would receive about $265 million in property taxes over 20 years. The schools would get about $240 million in property taxes. Overall, to all the service providers from the city of Aurora, the county, the schools, over 20 years could generate about $750 million in revenues. And then to look at just a common sense, a lot of municipalities and counties believe that residential is a drain on the city coffers and non-residential is what pays the bills. I don't see how 9.3 million square feet of non-residential uses could be a drain on the city coffers. If I look at expenses to serve on a per square foot basis that were estimated by EPS, I think this property will have a tremendous, potential annual positive impact to the city, which could be as high as $8 million a year. In addition to that, 9.3 million square feet of space would generate about 14,000 jobs. Over 20 years, that would be over $15 billion in wages provided in the community and almost $1.7 billion in temporary construction wages. So we think that the recommended land use plan that I had come up with is a very positive fiscal impact to the city from this 1 square mile. With that, I would stand for questions. Thank you.
Randall Phelps.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight, and thank you for your service to our city. I'm Randall Phelps, a 25-year resident of the city of Aurora. Just to quickly summarize what you've heard and add a couple of quick things. The development of this property is not speculative. Chelsea Investments is under contract with a motivated buyer to purchase up to half of the property. You heard that the development of the property will provide very nearly $300 million in revenues to the city of Aurora over the next 20 years, as well as nearly double that to all non-city providers over the next 20 years. In addition to that revenue generation, this development will provide significant jobs to the tune of over 14,000 permanent jobs and 16,000 temporary construction jobs, generating wages of $15 billion over the next 20 years. Front Range Air Park is strategically located between Denver International Airport and the Colorado Air and Spaceport. This property is a linchpin connecting the development as it moves along 56th Avenue from 470 to Denver International Airport, and then north along Imboden Road from I-70 along the Colorado Air and Spaceport. This is especially critical as it relates to much-needed infrastructure improvements such as roads, integrated water and sewer systems, Given the location of Front Range Air Park, and this development is key to unlocking economic development and growth in the Colorado Air and Spaceport subarea, especially with this motivated user. I encourage council to amend the growth area boundary to include Chelsea investment properties. Thank you.
That was the last individual.
A presentation by staff.
Thank you, Mayor. For the record, I'm Daniel Krasnowski with the Planning and Development Services Department. I'm joined tonight by Brian Duffney, Principal at EPS. He's the city's consultant for the fiscal impact analysis portion of this presentation. At previous hearings, we provide a lot of information, including that study to council. Two items that came up in questions from council at previous hearings. We have Brian able to speak to some of the specifics of that. The first is sort of some of the land use density assumptions, and the second is the anticipated city share of road costs and some mitigating factors with that. And I'll hand it over to Brian at this point.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Mayor and Council. So just listening to the presentation before us and tying that back to some of our analysis, you know, this is non-residential, industrial, and commercial development. We do expect it to have a positive fiscal impact on the operating side. Our analysis did find that there would be some gaps on the capital side. I'll talk a little bit more about that in relationship to roads specifically. You know, I think we do acknowledge that EPS's analysis may be conservative because we're looking at a very broad area. We are using fairly generalized but typical assumptions and estimates, sort of standard rules of thumb for land use densities. If you actually plan this in detail, you may get a higher density yield, which would increase some of the revenues. But I'm comfortable with the analysis that we've done. I don't want to try to overstate the potential revenues that this area could generate. And again, emphasize that we would expect development like this to be positive operating on an annual basis, but due to the city's revenue structures and well, let's go to roads then. So one of the comments we received was that we may be overestimating the gap in the capital costs, that we're overstating how much road costs the city may be responsible for paying for. We used current city policy in our analysis. Current city policy requires developers and landowners to construct 100% of the road improvements within their project. This is the city's model annexation agreement, and then half of road improvements on the perimeter roads. So when you see the map of this area, there's a large segment of perimeter roads, 72nd on the north, what's the eastern? Schumacher on the east, that was at the tip of my tongue, and then part of 56th on the south. And so that generates, you know, with no adjacent development planned, what can happen is if there's adjacent development, the property owners might reach an agreement where they may share some of those costs. We are not aware of any adjacent development in this area that would be interested in sharing costs. It's all unincorporated Adams County. We also did not assume any participation from Adams County on this. I don't know if it would be in their interest to participate in roads in this rural area of the county where I don't think they're focusing very much development. Now, the thing that could change is how this annexation area gets phased, how different property owners within that work together and work with the city. And the city also has the ability with development agreements and annexation agreements to have the developers, landowners pay for more of those improvements. So if that were the case, if there were different, if there was more participation from property owners, infrastructure charges, districts, et cetera, that would reduce some of the city's responsibility to pay for its share of that infrastructure. Daniel, anything to add?
No, staff is happy to answer further questions on those points or any others, and that concludes our presentation.
Questions of staff? Seeing none.
Mayor?
Councilmember Coombs.
Yes, thank you. So I know the analysis in the presentation has really been focused on the 12 square mile area. And I think given the roads issues, the previous presentation regarding concerns over leapfrog development, I continue to have concerns about the 12 square mile area. But in terms of areas that are immediately adjacent to current city annexation boundaries and current annex land within the city, including the Chelsea property and kind of that vicinity, does staff have an analysis of that smaller portion and consideration of a smaller area for inclusion within the city's annexation boundary?
Thank you, Councilwoman. Just to clarify the areas that you're talking about, what you see on the screen here in red is the 12 square miles that were studied. In green, the Chelsea Investments property, which is about 1 square mile. If you were speaking of sort of Chelsea and maybe the most adjacent, most contiguous square mile as well, it might look like this. Is this fair to assume that's what you're talking about?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Staff, we didn't do another analysis based on just this smaller area. Obviously, when you reduce the area, you're reducing both the revenues, some of the costs, some of the service costs as well. I think one thing that does differ pretty significantly for this very contiguous section is there's a lot less perimeter roads that would fall wholly outside of city limits or our planning annexation boundary. Based on the conversations and comments by council today, if that's a major point, I don't have a number for that, but just from a geography standpoint, you can see there's much less uncontiguous roadway that would be required for this area.
And again, we're not changing any of the land use types. It's still non-residential, industrial, commercial, so we would expect the operating impacts to be positive. The capital revenue issues are still there, though. The use tax is really the only major funding source the city has for capital. There are no non-residential impact fees that that would affect that gap. However, as I said previously, different negotiations with the land and cooperation with the landowners could result in them paying for more of those costs.
And let me just say that this is not the annexation in and of itself. This is merely the first step. So the council will have the ability to basically decline or accept based on really further analysis once the applicant, should the applicant make try to annex into the city. This is not an annexation in and of itself. Further questions of staff? Seeing none.
Mayor?
Councilmember Sundberg.
If I'm not mistaken, I do believe there is a city-approved alternate smaller annexation that we received information on, and perhaps that would be a boundary. A good alternative is a substitute motion this evening. So that Chelsea.
We need a motion on the floor to have a substitute motion. That is a problem. So if somebody could move 14A first,
Mayor,
then we can do a substitute.
motion to
Councilmember
approve item 14A.
It's moved by Councilmember Drensky, seconded by Councilmember Bergen to approve item number 14A. Councilmember Sundberg, now you're recognized for a substitute.
Thank you, sir. I move to approve a substitute boundary is much smaller, that's city analyzed already. It would include Chelsea within the boundary.
Is there a specific?
2 square miles.
2 square miles?
That, yes.
Very well. Is that?
And of course, we can always annex later, further.
Second.
Okay, very well. It's been moved by Councilmember, the substitute motion has been moved by Councilmember Sundberg, seconded by Councilmember Bergen. Discussion on the substitute motion.
Mayor.
Councilmember Coombs.
Yeah, so I think that just again, considering the concerns about leapfrog development, which I don't think are a concern on this site, it is adjacent to the city and actually kind of fills in a small gap that we have in our current planning and annexation boundary. And given that it's not speculative in nature for at least a significant portion of the site, I would support this this substitute motion.
Further discussion on the substitute motion.
Mayor.
Councilmember McConnell.
Thank you, sir. I do want to echo a bit of what Councilmember Coombs said. I do appreciate the applicant taking the time to meet and demonstrating that this is not a speculative exercise. I think that the use that's being proposed here makes a lot of sense, especially given the industry in the area. So I'm happy to support the smaller expansion.
Very well. Further discussion. Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of item number 14A. Call for the question.
Mayor, point of order.
Okay.
So 14A with the substitute motion. Yeah, okay.
This is on the substitute motion of 14A. Discussion on the substitute motion to 14A. Further discussion. Seeing none, call for the question on the substitute motion to 14A.
The motion passes with 9 yes votes for the substitute motion for item 14A.
Clerk, now please read the title to item number 14B.
Item 14B is ordinance 2023-09, amending Article 10, Chapter 134 of the City Code pertaining to the Aurora Parking and Traffic Enforcement Bureau and Automated Vehicle Identification System citations.
Brief presentation by staff.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. Lieutenant Kerrigan Bennett with the Aurora Police Department Traffic Section, returning for the second reading on the amendments to 134, which addresses photo enforcement and specifically allows us to move to magistrate hearings, cleans up a little bit of language, and includes some more modern ways to collect payments for fines.
Questions of staff? Seeing none, a motion is in order.
Mayor, motion to approve 14B.
Been moved by Councilmember Medina, seconded by
Marcano.
Councilmember Marcano to approve item number 14B. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, question before us is the adoption of item number 14B. Call for the question.
Councilmember Bergen?
Fall asleep.
Okay. The motion passes to adopt ordinance 2023-09.
Reports.
Excellent job.
I will have a town meeting next Saturday on, is it the 15th of April, 2 to 3:30 at the Central Library, 14949 East Alameda Parkway. And we'll be covering, I think there'll be an update on the consent decree. I'll be covering homeless issues. Art's Interim Chief Art Acevedo will also be presenting on some law enforcement issues, and hope people can turn out. Councilmember Lawson.
Thank you, Mayor. The biggest issue for the Pfizer Committee right now, there's 3 more weeks until the legislative session ends. It ends on May 6th. The biggest issue that is right now at the legislature is Senate Bill 213, which is the land use bill. So there's a lot of amendments coming and a lot of a lot of focus on that bill throughout the session. Myself and Councilmember Sundberg, we attended the End Veteran Suicide Gala this Saturday, and it's with Warriors Now, and it was a very compelling event. And this organization actually ends veteran suicide. And so this gala was to earn money or to raise money and to focus on veteran suicide that's happening in our state and in our communities. So it was, I think they raised close to $40,000, and this would go to different programs that Warrior Now is doing for veterans and helping them with issues that they're addressing, and also to grow and develop their wellness center as well. So went to attend that, and it was a great event. So that's all I have, Mayor.
Let's see. Mayor Pro Tem Gardner, I don't believe is here. Councilmember Drinsky.
Yeah, thank you. I just would like to say that the next at-large town hall is going to be June 15th at the People's Building on Colfax at 6 p.m., and all 4 at-large council members will be there.
Councilmember Zvonek.
Thank you, Mayor. This past week, Dr.Cog had a special board meeting to discuss, as Councilmember Lawson just mentioned, Senate Bill 213, which is the governor's statewide land use bill. The board voted to actively oppose Senate Bill 213. A number of the local jurisdictions, counties, cities have all started to do so. CML, I believe, also actively opposes. So Dr. Cog has decided to take that position while continuing to work to try to make the bill better, but recognizing under its current state that it would be bad for local governments, and so had decided to take that position. The second issue that Dr. Cog we talked about at the board meeting was the EPA's climate pollution reduction grants, and there is a discussion about whether or not Dr. Cog should be the lead agency to facilitate those grants. I'm going to be circulating a letter to my colleagues suggesting that we support that and look for ways for the city of Aurora to apply for grants that specifically around or for equipment to utilize some of those funds that will be coming in from the federal government. That's all I have.
Let's see, Councilmember Murillo.
Thanks, Mayor. I attended a few events over the weekend, and I just wanted to give a thank you and a shout out to Somos Dance Studio. It's a Rasta salsa dance company and studio that just had their grand opening in the district in Ward 1 off of 32nd, I believe, 33rd and Peoria. I'm really excited to support a BIPOC-owned small business and to see, the community and their attendance of the event is a really strong tight-knit community of dance instructors, and I'm excited to start building out our local infrastructure of places to go have fun and not just go to our neighboring cities for fun experiences like that. If you don't know how to dance, I encourage you to take dance lessons. They have weekly group classes, private lessons, and it was just wonderful to have been invited to be part of that event. I was also able to support another one of our organizations, the Heavy Hands, Heavy Hearts Foundation. They had a charity event to support their Gloves Up, Guns Down initiative aimed at youth violence prevention. So lots of events in the community this past weekend, and I was really honored to have been invited. And last but not least, my monthly town hall will be on Thursday, April 27th at 6 p.m., and we will be meeting at the MLK Library. I hope to see you all there.
Councilmember Medina. I'm sorry, Councilmember Sundberg.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Hey, get it mixed up.
We look
alike.
We look alike.
They look alike.
Yes, last council meeting, I could relate to one of the ceremonies in which there was organ transplant with my eyes. And in this one here today, a couple of things rang true and related to me and my family. My wife is the survivor of a real genocide of Rwanda. She fled for her life and lost 2 siblings immediately and 2 later when the camps were broken up. So she has an incredible story and an incredible story of forgiveness despite what happened to her family and so many hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of people, probably millions. The power of forgiveness, moving on. She's a very happy and joyful person. Court advocates, Advocates for Children, court-appointed special advocate. I'm one of them. What a tremendous organization that is. They're always looking for volunteers, especially men. Men of color would be a great bonus to that organization. Tomorrow, Councilwoman Jurinsky and myself are heading to Thornton to see an Adams 12 law enforcement crime scene pathway curriculum, to see how they're teaching young people about the career of law enforcement and crime scene investigation to help attract young people into the profession and teach them practical skills. I also attended with Councilmember Lawson, as she mentioned, the End Veteran Suicide. It was a heavy topic. 22 veterans on a daily basis commit suicide. I also attended the Somos Dance Studio with Tom, and it was a fantastic event. If Councilmember Lawson and Bergen were there, they would have broken out in dance as in their normal style. Attended the Chamber Awards event, recognizing a lot of great people in leadership and organizations like Launchpad Brewery and our good friend Dr. Mordecai Brownlee, etc. And then Ward 2 Council, Town Hall is on the 20th of this month. Hope you all can attend. We're talking about alternative energy solutions in Ward 2, as well as oil and gas, and a few other issues. Don't miss it.
Councilmember Medina.
Thanks, sir. I had town hall last week. We had a pretty robust agenda. We had open space, Greg with budget, and consent decree. I think we had a lot of questions around the consent decree and how we're getting that information out to community members. So I'll be working with them to kind of figure a way to better have that presentation, I think, because a lot of people felt disconnected with that information, and there were certainly a lot of questions about that consent decree and how it's being monitored in the community.
Councilmember McConnell.
Thank you, sir. All right, our final public hearing for our Charter Review Committee is going to be tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. right here in Council Chambers. So y'all can find the items posted online at engageaurora.org/charter review. If you haven't already, you're able to submit your comments online. And if you'd prefer, you can come to Chambers tomorrow and submit them in person. We would love to see y'all here and have you participate in that process. Our April Ward 4 meeting is coming up this Thursday, the 13th at 6:30 p.m. at Colorado Early Colleges. That's located at 1400 South Abilene. We're going to be joined by Greg Hayes for an overview of our 2023 budget, and we're also going to have some light appetizers from Nile Ethiopian. So I hope to see y'all there.
Let's see. Councilmember Coombs, not here, but virtually here.
Trip you up. So my next ward town hall is next Tuesday at 6 p.m. at Heather Gardens, and we will have, at Central Rec Center, and we'll be hybrid, and we will have a presentation on the consent decree, and we will also have County Assessor PK Kaiser present to discuss property valuations and appeals of the property valuations for this upcoming property tax cycle. So look forward to, and as always, we will have representatives from the PAR department and the fire department. So look forward to seeing you there.
Councilmember Bergen.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to say, I don't know if there was anyone in the audience that was waiting to hear their name for any of the boards. We had the Golf Commission, the Veterans Commission, and the Open Space Board. So those were all on consent calendars. So basically, all of you that were recommended made the cut for being on those committees. My only report, unfortunately, I did miss a lot of evening events because I had the flu all of last week, but did participate in some virtual meetings, one of them being the Region 9 opioid meeting, and we finalized our review of scopes of work within our different subgroups, and right at this point we'll be finalizing the RFQ document and a rubric for evaluation. Then we will go out, advertise the RFQ And then once the applications come in, we'll have our different groups also evaluating those and then selecting the people that submitted the applications and the awards for those. So this is part of the opioid settlement monies, and there's just the hundreds of millions of dollars that were in the settlement. So it's a really important work. So soon we'll have some final results that will come out. This will continue, of course, because the settlement monies go on for 18 years beyond this first phase. So we're really excited that we'll be able to make some awards that hopefully will help with the opioid addiction problem that we face in our city and our country. So that's the end of my report.
Just one point I want to finish up with, and that is I do a rotation, a public safety rotation, and so I was with District 3 on a ride-along on Saturday night with Officer Madison Berdzinski, who was a 3-year veteran with the Aurora PD, fantastic officer. And the week prior to that, I was in detention at our detention facility. And Saturday evening, I was observing. I was not in the detention facility. I just want to clarify that. And then I think next weekend, I expect to be with the marshals, observing their interface with our weekend court. And with that, seeing no further business before the City Council, we are adjourned.